obviously then the bad guys, the threat actors, they're using that same encryption for getting the information they want out of your systems into their systems. So this data exfiltration process, they're now using a lot of DNS to evade detection. What other developments, sophistications are we seeing in this area? How should organizations go ahead and adapt their defenses to prevent these type of evolving exfiltration techniques? I know we've got the ADNS Resolver that's been coming out as a service from Palo Alto Networks. What other types of tools do we have available to us to help protect ourselves?
Yeah, it's been really fascinating over the last handful of years to watch how DNS has started to feature more and more in attack scenarios. We started covering DNS specifically as a protocol and as an attack surface with the introduction of DNS security going back a handful of years. And I think we started with maybe something like 2 or 3 detection modules and a malicious domain database way back when we first got started. And now you look at the suite of capabilities that we have. We have, I think, verging on 30-ish or so unique different flavors of DNS protocol manipulation, attack and abuse that adversaries can perform to penetrate networks, establish command and control, exfiltration, and different attack scenarios. And the interesting thing about DNS is it's an internet-facing protocol by design, and it can carry data and carry data bidirectionally, which makes it a fantastic covert channel for an adversary. Albeit a slow pipe, it's a pipe nonetheless. Virtually every network in the world, of course, runs DNS, and so it can always be available and relied upon as an attacker. And we see these clever and creative things that they do, such as DNS data tunneling for C2 and data exfiltration in fully RFC compliant DNS. And the only way you'll actually see it is if you're looking for it specifically. And so, as I mentioned, we've been now focusing on DNS for a handful of years here, and we've seen some interesting evolutions already. A couple come to mind. New innovations on the attacker side. One is something we call ultra slow DNS tunneling or DNS exfiltration. For a while now, DNS tunneling, data tunneling, has been a known, well-established technique. I think at this point, most internet edge security vendors that play in the space at all have some capability there. There have been off-the-shelf tools available like DNS Cat, and some popular malware toolkits offer these as modules. So, it's a fairly well understood technique. But sure enough, what we started to see as we peeled back the layers a little bit more, we noticed that more advanced adversaries would notice what defenders are doing, and they would change their tunneling approaches to go even lower and slower to try and get under the radar and avoid detection. And they would do a few things to accomplish this. They would simply space out maybe their DNS queries, so it was harder to cross a threshold. They would spread the DNS queries across multiple top-level domains, which again, is in the effort of trying to avoid tripping thresholds. And so, we actually, I think, coined the phrase ultra-slow DNS tunneling in recognition of this fact that while, a lot of security technology out there would sort of check the box, so to speak, from a datasheet perspective and covering DNS tunneling, they were covering tools and proofs of concept. They weren't really covering real in the wild use of this technique from advanced adversaries, because they've already moved on to the next thing. They're now going even deeper to avoid detection. And so that's one example of us seeing what the tip of the spear adversary is doing and developing modern inline deep learning based approaches with precision AI as it's applied to advanced DNS security to really see and stop these more modern flavors of DNS attack and abuse. And there's another technique. Srinivas, actually, your team was just looking at this, several months ago, and just deployed a solution to a newer approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to reiterate Taylor's point, right, DNS is such a common protocol available for use by the attackers. And I want to say almost 10 years ago, I used to manage also the app ID technology on the Palo Alto firewalls. And there were these tools that Taylor is referring to, like one such I remember was IoT, and they would like tunnel like IPv4 traffic in DNS. And Taylor's absolutely right. Like we'd invested in our app ID technology so much to pick up on these kinds of apps, and so did the security vendor community, which is go after it from a tool perspective, right? Like that Taylor was highlighting, which is every time there is a new tool out there that's doing some kind of a DNS tunnel, then security vendors can come in and pick up and write signatures and pick up on those. And that has changed now. So again, it's the same cat and mouse game, right? So the adversaries are realizing that there are advanced next gen firewalls that are able to detect uh, all of these tools. Um, and as Taylor highlighted, they're also able to pick up on these ultra low, what he called ultra low and slow DNS exfiltration. They just keep the volume low, right? But end of the day, all of this is predicated on the fact that that DNS traffic is actually transiting your perimeter firewall, right? And then you can discuss about how you can catch it, how evasive it is, and such. Uh, but what if that DNS traffic never actually transited your internet perimeter firewall, right? And that's how creative the threat actors have gotten. So in a traditional DNS exfil, once you've gotten on the endpoint as a threat actor, you're trying to just pretend to resolve some domains and send out these DNS resolution packets. And Taylor talked extensively about how you can pick up on that. Now, what if not as a client on the inside of the firewall, but as a server on the outside of the firewall, I'm able to trigger a DNS resolution, right? So here I am as an attacker that I've landed on the network, and I am sitting on the endpoint, target endpoint. But rather than initiate DNS resolutions from that endpoint, I find a mechanism to have DNS resolution be initiated by some server on the outside of the firewall, right? And so, specifically, to be specific, what we have observed is these are legitimate servers on the internet. These could be mail gateways, these could be CDNs, um, these could be just load balancers, very legit, genuine services on the internet. But guess what? When you talk to them on protocols like HTTP, TLS, SMTP, mail transfer, all of these protocols will carry domain names in their headers. So we found that threat actors are able to reach out to these genuine servers on the outside of the firewall through some traditional HTTP, TLS, SMTP protocols. But however, in those headers, they will place some domains. Now, the natural behavior for these servers when they see domains in these headers, they will try and resolve them. So, as an attacker, what I've just achieved is very creatively gotten past the firewall on the internet perimeter on a very plain HTTP session, going to a very genuine destination that firewalls are not going to uh, treat as malicious. And I've caused that remote server to then initiate a DNS resolution. And guess what? I have placed all my sensitive data in the DNS domain names that I have placed in those headers. So when the server is trying to resolve those domains, guess where those resolution requests are going? They're going to the DNS infrastructure the adversary has set up and is able to read all of the sensitive data placed in those domain names, and I have successfully exfiltrated. Right. So that's how creative this has gotten. So it's the fact that you're not even seeing DNS on the firewall, right? So how do you prevent? How do you prevent, right? So with CDSS, we are a suite of protection services, and so we do see the HTTP traffic. We do apply, like our ATP subscription has models that look at TLS and HTTP protocols. So what if our ML models in ATP subscriptions can look for this suspicious domains in headers, and then when they do find them, hand those off to our DNS security module and have them inspect those domains, right? So even though we haven't yet initiated any DNS traffic, we're able to like foresee and preempt any potential DNS to those domains. So through the combination of our subscriptions, not just one, but them taken together, are able to come together and beat the attack, right? So I think Taylor was alluding, I think much earlier in the conversation about how you have to look at the entire attack life cycle and bring to bear the combination of technologies, right, to try and block it. Right? And this is one such great example.
Definitely, yeah. So Taylor, now with the release of PanOS 12.1 Orion, it introduces all sorts of powerful new innovations to strengthen protection across all the attack services we've been talking about today. How do these services, delivered through CDSS, give the customers a deeper visibility, stronger prevention, and more comprehensive defense against these multi-stage campaigns that these threat actors are inflicting upon us now?
Yeah, I mean, with every PanOS release, there's just always so much to talk about. It's difficult to zero in on any one particular thing. But within the security services portfolio, I'll just point to two particular announcements that we're particularly excited about. The first is the introduction of a new advanced DNS resolver. This is a resolver-based form factor for the advanced DNS service that a lot of our customers already know and love. That was actually the biggest point of feedback that we've gotten so far since the release of advanced DNS is customers will come to us and say, hey, we love what you're doing with DNS security. I want to deploy it more in these different deployment scenarios. And
if I can just throw a shameless plug out there, we did actually have an event with specifically the ADNS Resolver service, the product manager, a couple of weeks ago. Check out that playlist on YouTube. We've got it out there for you if you want to learn more about that directly. So sorry, Taylor, go ahead.
No, perfect. Thanks, yeah. So yep, that definitely encourage anyone that's not as familiar with the service, definitely go back and have a listen. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what DNS Resolver allows us to do is everything you've heard about today and then in that other webinar, deploying in a resolver-based form factor. It makes it far simpler to deploy sort of this always-on DNS layer of security from Palo Alto Networks across any location, even in mixed security vendor landscapes. There's a whole lot of exciting roadmap around it also. So definitely encourage you to tune in on that. And of course, all of the benefits of that consistency of that security layer that we talked about with Wildfire and URL filtering and DNS security, all these services talking with one another, sharing intelligence, preventing breaches with a higher success rate because of that network effect. That all extends to the resolver-based form factor for advanced DNS. So definitely check it out if you have a resolver form factor use case. The second item I'll point to is the introduction of device security. This is really the latest evolution of what we've been doing for some time in the IoT and OT security space, and really converging these into an all-in-one comprehensive solution for securing a challenge that almost every customer I talk to has, which is what about all of these headless devices, non-traditional endpoints, OT, enterprise IoT, basically any of these devices that you can't run an agent on, you might overlook from time to time. You might not be as up to speed on paying attention to patching or OS updates. How to properly segment them from a network access and user access standpoint. These are all challenges that are particularly, I mean, they apply to every endpoint, but they're particularly, acute for these sort of non-traditional or headless devices. And device security shines a spotlight on all of that. And so we're really excited to really, up-level the subscription and combine all of what's needed for a holistic device security offering into one offering, one SKU, and unlock all of that value for all of our customers, regardless of whether you might have more of an enterprise focus, more of an OT focus. The combined offering now is really comprehensive in addressing all of our customers' needs in that area. So definitely go check that out as well.
And as a secondary shameless plug, we're going to be doing device security in probably middle of October. I think the October 16th date is our tentative plan for the next Spark event for device security specifically as well. So, gentlemen, as we start to wrap it up here, we're going to go ahead and with one last question. As the threats continue to evolve and become more AI-driven and multi-stage, how can organizations prepare for the future of network security today? What guidance would you give the audience on adopting these new defensive technologies and strengthening their security posture? This is going to be very helpful for them when they go to upper managers and say, hey guys, we got more threats coming in, but you haven't shown us anything, because it's got to be here before we know it. We need this protection. We need this justification now. What can they use?
Yeah. I have some thoughts. Srinivas, you want to go first, or I can tackle this one as well?
Yeah, take a crack. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess a few things come to mind, right? One of the topics we've brought up, I think Srinivas actually mentioned already, is just the importance of decryption actually as part of a comprehensive approach to network security, right? A lot of the innovations we've talked about and that we've released over the years in our CDSS portfolio really rely on decryption to get the most value out of what you're getting with those services. So sort of a shameless plug on the deployment side of things for going back, taking a look, making sure that that's deployed as aggressively as the enterprise will permit to get the maximum security benefit. I'd also call out two other aspects come to mind. First off is just ensuring that you're consuming and deploying, at least as a starting point, these 4 core subscriptions we've been talking about today: advanced URL filtering, DNS security, wildfire, threat prevention. These really are the core of the platform, and making sure you're getting the most out of your Palo Alto Networks investment, and not just at internet edge, but really pervasively internal to the network. Anywhere where there's next-gen firewall, cloud location, anywhere there's a critical point of ingress, egress, or segmentation, those are fantastic places to do intrusion prevention, advanced wildfire, right? When you take a look at the strategy behind wildfire and why it was so successful compared to the point product sandbox vendors of the day, was precisely because we didn't just look at it as a solution for the internet edge or to put on your secure email gateway. It was really something you wanted to deploy everywhere. Anywhere you can see a file and you don't know what it is, you want to see what it is and figure out whether it's good or bad. So I just encourage everyone to take a look at the portfolio, make sure it's deployed and deployed everywhere it can be, just to get that maximum benefit. And maybe lastly, before I hand things over to Srinivas for his thoughts, I would also point out some of the exciting work that we're doing in the secure enterprise browser space. As a lot of you have probably seen, we recently introduced Prisma Access Browser. As initially, the primary use case there was all around sort of hybrid and contractor access to private applications. However, very quickly now we've evolved the applicability of Prisma Access Browser to really be our flagship secure web access platform for any user, any device, managed, unmanaged, employee, non-employee. It doesn't matter. We are natively integrating these capabilities, a lot of which we've talked about today, into the browser itself, which gives us just unprecedented security capability, because we can sit there on the browser, sit there on the page, on all content that's running, all code that's running, and do things that you just can't do from a purely on-the-wire standpoint. And so having the network security technology combined with browser-delivered security for web-based or browser-based threats is really the sort of the ultimate companion to making sure that you're getting the absolute most out of your Palo Alto Networks investment. That's what comes to mind for me. Srinivas, any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, Taylor, absolutely. I love that set of recommendations. Absolutely spot on. From making sure your decryption's on, and making sure the technologies that you have access to, the ones that we described, you're actually using them, right? And using them in the right places, figuring out the roles of your devices, and ensuring the right advanced subscriptions are enabled in the right places. And one thing I will just add in closing is, and hark back to the Pano's Orion question as well, which is the precision AI technologies that we have in CDSS. Really, it's a framework, right? It's a framework for continuing to build ML and AI models that can run in line and protect against threats in real time. And so we do this on a continuous basis. So although PanOS announcements come right whenever there's a major release, really on the precision AI front for the security services, we're constantly innovating, right? And so on a continuous basis, not aligned to any PanOS major releases and such. We're releasing new models for, let's say, deep phishing. We're releasing new models for, we talked about the data exfiltration identification for DNS, new models for API profiling for malware. And I think in closing, I will say that we are continuing to watch the landscape, and as it evolves in terms of AI leverage, we do the same from the Defender standpoint.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. I really want to thank you for jumping on and helping get this information out there. I know we didn't have much in the way of questions from the crowd and whatnot. I actually thought of one question I did want to ask you guys with regards to going back to the DNS topic for a quick moment. Is this with all the DNS issues we're running into nowadays, the new threat vectors that attackers are using and whatnot, would this be impetus then for companies to want to start doing more DNSSEC? Would that be helpful in this regards, or is that kind of ancillary to the problems that we're running into here?
Yeah, I think for DNSSEC is generally more useful to protect users from fraudulent services or services malicious actors impersonating legitimate services, and it certainly plays a role. I think what is probably more impactful to enterprise DNS security for your end users internally is the rollout that we're seeing of encrypted DNS from client to server. So DNS over HTTPS or DOH, otherwise known as, or DOT, DNS or TLS. These are basically just encrypted wrapped versions of DNS, which we are seeing an uptick in. So you'll see, commercial browsers now rolling out support for this technology. You'll see client applications that might come pre-baked with their own DNS stack using DOH or something, or DOT. And so, we, of course, as a DNS security provider, need to be prepared for that, and in fact are prepared for that, right? So our DNS security service secures both clear text as well as encrypted DNS, precisely for that reason. I used to say that DNS security was a service that focused purely on port 53, but now that's not the case. It's now a 443 problem with DOH. And so yes, absolutely, we see usage. Whether you're aware of it or not, go check your logs and see what you see. You might be surprised. But in general, just as we've seen with the HTTP, web protocols, there's just this kind of relentless marching on of advancements and innovation on the protocol side makes applications faster, user experience faster. And we see the same thing happening with DNS. And so, you should be able to rest assured that we cover those channels as well. But it's also another call to action on the decryption front, right? Because you need the decryption in place for us to unwrap that and secure encrypted DNS in the same way that we secure port 53 clear text DNS. So at the very least, I'd recommend everyone on the call to ensure decryption is at least rolled out for those well-known, high-profile public DOH resolvers. A certain handful of vendors come to mind. But again, there's no guarantee that you aren't seeing DNS going to some other resolvers out there on the internet. So it's kind of one of those things, decryption, the more you deploy, the more benefit that you get.
That's true. I'll just add that in general, DNSSEC is mainly about adding cryptographic signatures to the DNS data. So you're preserving the authenticity and integrity, right? So you know where it's coming from and it hasn't been tampered with. So there probably is a class of attacks that DNSSEC can help with. Maybe things like man in the middle, where like the resolution of a DNS was tampered with, and that won't happen with a cryptographic signature. But I think the prevalence in terms of adoption is not very high, in my knowledge. And then, of course, the breadth of DNS attacks spans much broader than just integrity of DNS responses.
Cool. All right. Well, I just had that question, so I thought I would throw it out there for everyone. So thank you very much. So again, gentlemen, I will let you get going now. Srinivas, Taylor, thank you very much, gentlemen. We really appreciate you being here, and I hope you both have a fantastic day. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Charles. Great conversation.
Thank you.